Hi, this is Stephen from Own or Disown, and welcome again to my channel to look at another beast of a laptop. This time we're looking at the 15.6 inch MSI GT62VR 6RE Dominator Pro-087. Yes, I don't know why I can't make these names shorter, but there you go. So yeah, it's a great laptop. It's affordable, it's pocket friendly. It's around about $1,500, $1,600, so it competes with the Asus GL502 I looked at earlier. So without further ado, let's take a look at it now. Let's take a quick look at the specs of my unit. For CPU, it has the i7-6700 HQ. That's a quad core with 8 threads. For a GPU, it's got the Nvidia GTX 1070, 8GB of RAM. Hard drive, it's got two. It's got the SSD, a 256GB, and a spinning hard drive, 1TB. And for RAM, it's got 16GB of DDR4, 2400 MHz RAM. Battery-wise, it's got quite a large battery, 8 cells, 75 watt-hour, and a decent power supply at 230 watts. The screen is a 1920 by 1080 60Hz panel. It's a G-Sync panel. And the webcam is 1080p with 30 frames per second. I checked the weight and it was bang on at 6.4 pounds. So checking the dimensions, we're 15.25 inches long, 10.5 inches wide and 1.5 inches thick. Looking at the underside of the computer, look at the large red intake vents and the dedicated subwoofer. Also notice the tamper-proof sticker that covers one of the screws. If you do take the back panel off, this is what you'll be greeted with. The subwoofer, 2 spare RAM slots, the SSD slot, the hard drive, and the battery, and the fans. It's pretty bare inside, but that's what's there. So looking at the ports, on the right hand side, we've got a SD card reader and 3 high-speed USB 3 ports. Looking around the back, we have the Ethernet port, we've got the USB Type-C port, HDMI 1.4, good for 30 frames per second at 4K, mini display port, the power connector, 2 nice big fan vents. On the left hand side, a Kensington lock and a USB 2.0 port. I wish that was a USB 3, or there's enough space in here to even have a DVD player. And here we've got the SPDIF, the line in, and the microphone jack, and the headphone jack. And at the front we've got the series of LED lights for caps lock, power, hard drive activity, and killer network activity. The top, nice brushed aluminum finish. The MSI light glows up when it's lit up. It's powered on, and as do these little red marks here. The top of the computer is brushed aluminum too, and it's nice. The speaker grill goes the full length along here. There's 2 3-watt speakers in there, and the keyboard is by SteelSeries. The bezel is fairly thin. I'd say it's not too thick. Well, it's not thin, but it's I wouldn't say it's too chunky. It's not too bad. And screen brightness, the maximum, it's certainly bright enough, and even all the way down to 0, it's still you can see it you know, in ambient light inside, so that's no problem. Outside, a different story. Let's take a look at the screen brightness outside in our usual test, and this is head on. It's a sunny day. There's a fair bit of glare on it, but as you can still see, it's a matte display, so it's not that super glossy, but it's not super bright, but you can still work. You can still do some work on it. This is 100% brightness. But you can certainly adjust it to where you need. Side angles, you can still see, but it's a little bit tough to see in the bright light. Reducing the screen brightness to 50% brightness, it's starting to get a little bit hard to see, particularly at the sides. So watching a movie outside is going to be could be a bit challenging. You certainly lose the colour. It's starting to look a little bit washed out. Let's do 25% brightness. Well, that's 30% there, and now it's hard to see altogether. So it's not the best display to use outdoors. Indoors it's certainly bright enough, it's fine, but outdoors it does seem to struggle a little bit. The screen has no flex, which is great. It's very stiff, and the hinges Nice and solid too. I like that. That's good. So let's take a look at the keyboard and trackpad. The keyboard is by SteelSeries, and it's a nice solid keyboard with a good distance of key travel there. It's nice. The keys are nicely separated. I do like that. I've got what's called fat fingers, and I do typically make lots of typing mistakes, but I make less on this because the keys are more widely spaced out, so I do like that also. The Windows keys are a bit strange. Normally you have it over here on the left, but it's over here on the right hand side. But I do like the arrow keys being here, and you know, with the volume down and the volume up here, which you activate by pressing the FN, and the brightness control. So I like those controls all being there rather than sometimes they appear somewhere. I like them all being centralized there. That is good. Also, this side of the keyboard here, these keys, you can alter the brightness of the keys themselves. So that's sweet. Up top, we've got some physical buttons here. This one here brings up the fan. So pressing it, you can hear the fans kick in pretty high. And if you actually open up the Dragon Center, you can see the fans RPM there being reported. So there you go, there's the fans changing speed. And pressing it again will turn it off. Now it doesn't turn off straight away, it'll gradually decline, and as will the sound, of course. So that's good. Compared to the Alienware where you had to go to the BIOS to alter the sound, it makes so much more sense to be able to have a keyboard button to press. So that is great. Then we have this button here which opens up the Gamecaster software, and this button here changes the colors of the lights, so that's nice, and the power button. So let's take a look at these marvelous lights and how they can be configured. So first we're on normal mode, and let's quickly switch it to breathing mode. There you go, you'll see it getting lighter and dark, like as if you're taking breaths. Wave mode scans across the keyboard like that, like a wave. And finally, audio mode. Ideal for disco parties, yay! So the trackpad is textured. It's got a nice little texture to it, and the buttons that click make a bit of noise, but they're perfectly fine. Initially, when I got the laptop, the power saver mode would mean that the cursor would jump around, but they since released a fix for that, and now the cursor is very pleasant to use. They do use a synaptic touchpad, which is great, and it's fully configurable. So you can do two-finger scrolling up and down, but you do have to press fairly hard on the trackpad to make it work initially, and then once you've got the connection, it's fine. Pinch to zoom also works, but I wouldn't say it's anything super accurate. The speakers are by Dyne Audio. They are 3-watt speakers, so you've got two 3-watt speakers and a subwoofer underneath. So the audio in here is excellent. So let's have a quick look at the audio. But you know, you've probably noticed from my videos that I had issues with the Alienware 15R3 overheating. So taking the ambient measurement is about 26 decibels. So at idle we have about 32 decibels. So here we fire up a game, so the fans are at full load, 51 decibels, not too bad at all. Alright, so I've been benchmarking for a number of hours now. Let's just take a look at the temperatures. So pointing in the middle of the keyboard, it is 34 degrees. Towards the AWSD keys, that's 32, so that's not bad, that's nice and cool. Heading towards the number pad, we're at 31. So it's certainly a little bit warmer in the center. At the touchpad, we are 32. And let's have a look what would be on your lap. 41 in the center. Towards the rear, about 47, 48. And at the front, 29. Just for shits and giggles, to have a look at the temperature coming out the back. It varies quite widely, quite a lot, but it's not too bad, look. It's only 39. Testing, webcam and microphone. This is what it looks like. So let's take a quick look at the MSI Dragon Center software that comes pre-installed. The first is the app portal, and this shows you shortcuts to various apps, whether it be the SteelSeries keyboard, color optimization, the sound, or the game caster software. Then we have the system monitor software here. You can check the performance of the CPU, GPU, memory, and your hard disk, what percentage it's being utilized, as well as the CPU and GPU fan speed, what the power plan is, the GPU core clock, the CPU memory clock, as well as the temperatures. Next up we have the LED wizard. Here you can set parameters for all the colors on the keyboard, whether you want to set it to normal, breathing, gaming, so forth. Next up we have the system tuner utility, whereby we can speed up the computer by doing sport, comfort, or eco modes, much in the same way as high performance or balance mode, create various profiles, and adjust fan speeds according to how you would like to do them, and alter the color of the screen. You have quite in-depth control over the fan speed. You can either keep it on automatic or switch it to basic, where you can just manually do it fast or slow. Switching it to cooler boost basically jacks up the fan speed, and you can see it's ramping up there in the system monitor. Switching to advanced mode allows you to alter the fan speed depending on the temperature it's at. This can be both for the CPU and the GPU, so there's a lot of control here. So using your mobile phone, you can got the mobile monitor where it connects to your computer by Wi-Fi. So here's the system monitor where you can check the fan speeds and so forth. You can also change any of the other functions you can do in the full desktop version of the software, including the fan speeds and the LED lighting. And lastly is the Nahimic 2 software, which basically allows you to control the sound and set it for music, movies, gaming, whether it's first-person shooters, strategy games, that type of thing. You can alter the bass, the treble, voice clarity, and loudness. Let's have a quick look at the battery life. Note in the Dragon Center software, if you change to eco mode, it defaults to balance mode, which is no longer power saving mode. The CPU clocks to 797 MHz and the GPU clocks down to 632 MHz. This results in a 3 hours 42 minute battery life, streaming YouTube videos over Wi-Fi, all the way down from 100 to 7%. Screen brightness was set at 25%. Gaming, on the other hand, is going to take a huge hit, just short of an hour at 54 minutes. So there's not really any advanced parts in the BIOS here. Just the first page is just the storage information, system information. Clicking to the advanced mode, it just brings you up to the various states, whether it's hyper-threading enabled, the CPU states are enabled. Switching to the boot tab, it's interesting to see that you can change the different boot option orders. Notice there the DVD drive, which doesn't come included in my model, but it must be available in other versions. Since the CPU is locked and can't be overclocked, I overclocked the GPU using MSI Afterburner, getting extra 220 MHz on the core clock and an extra 577 Hz on the memory clock. That is a fantastic overclock. I also wanted to see if the power supply was supplying enough power, and indeed 100% fully charged. Hopefully you guys haven't fallen asleep, because it's benchmark time! For each benchmark I recorded the CPU and GPU frequencies and temperatures, and I will show those at the end in a graph. Measuring hard drive speed. On the left we have the spinning hard drive, about 130 megabytes per second. And on the right we have the SSD with read speeds of about 540 megabytes per second. Not the fastest, but it's still okay. So the Cinebench R15 score was 642 points, which was slightly higher than the one I got with the i7-6820 on the Alienware 15. And the temperature of the CPU, very nice too, 69 degrees. Here are the settings I used, 1080p and everything maxed out. So at stock settings, 84 frames per second, the GPU overclocked, an extra 6% in performance, 89 frames per second. And here are the settings used on Crysis 3. Pretty much maxed out, very high.
Mostly, I just kill him.
So in Crysis 3 we got 56 frames per second at stock, overclocking it yielded 59, but it couldn't compete with the Alienware 15R3 with the 6820 overclockable CPU in it. I got 69. Notice the blue circle to the right, that's the audio tracker. In the software it shows you the direction which audio is coming from. Here are the settings used on Tomb Raider. It's certainly worthwhile playing this game in DX12. Stock settings 103 frames per second and overclocking the GPU 108. At DX11 stock settings 97 frames per second, that compares closely to the Alienware 15 that had 98. Overclocking the GPU gives us 104 frames per second. At stock we had 5,113 points. This compared favourably to the Alienware 15 that had 5,103, and overclocking it gave 5,347 points. Not bad. In the Firestrike Extreme test, stock settings produced 6,795 points. Overclocking the GPU did increase it to 7,191, but that was close to the stock Alienware 15R3 at 7,152. Here are the settings used for Metro Last Light. Stock settings 101 frames per second, overclocking the GPU increased it to 105, but still didn't quite beat the stock Alienware 15R3 at 108 frames per second. Dying Light used to be a punishing game too, not anymore. Stock settings 106 frames per second, overclocking the GPU 118 frames per second. That's an 11% increase. So these are the settings I used on Doom. 1080 display, motion blur high, and everything else maxed out. So in Doom, at stock settings 84 frames per second, overclocking the GPU about the same, 85. Alienware 15R3 again won at 91 frames per second, and the Asus GL502 80 frames per second. Here are the settings I use for The Witcher 3, 1080p, Hairworks on at number 4, and everything else on Ultra. So at stock settings, 69 frames per second, overclocking the GPU increased that to 73, but still didn't peg back the Alienware 15R3 at 76 frames per second. Again, we pulled no punches with the settings here on Gears of War 4, everything on Ultra, maxed out. This game also enjoyed some benefit from overclocking, 117 frames per second from the stock 111. The Alienware 15R3 came in close, 109 frames per second. The following settings were used for Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Assassin's Creed Syndicate doesn't seem to benefit from overclocking much, generally around about the 63-64 frames per second mark. The Alienware 15R3 was around about 60 frames per second. So we used the following quality settings for Grand Theft Auto 5, so let's see how it gets on. At stock settings we got 94 frames per second, similar to the Alienware 15. At overclocking it we got a nice increase, 101 FPS. So I recorded the temperature and frequency of both the CPU and GPU on every game, and I averaged it out in this table. Overclocking does see a slight increase in both the CPU and GPU temperatures, but doesn't negatively affect the frequency they operate at. What is interesting, the spec for the GTX 1070 in a laptop is supposed to have a boost of 1645. Well, we're certainly seeing a bigger increase here. The CPU is practically running up to its max boost of 3500 MHz. I did see some thermal throttling in some games, but not across all cores. It's probably just mainly one core at most. On average, overclocking increased performance by about 6%, so it's worth doing. It's conclusion time. Yep, that was a lot of tests, and I enjoyed doing every one of them. And it's a pleasure to work with this laptop. Most importantly, the temperatures I felt were fantastic. It was a pleasure not to see it going up to 95 or 100 degrees. The fan system, everything worked out great. What I liked about it? Well, a lot. I like the price, $1,500, $1,600. It's pocket friendly, that's nice. And you've got a GTX 1070 graphics card in there, so it's a powerhouse. Coupled with the i7-6700 quad-core processor, you know, nothing really slows it down. And to be fair, I didn't see much difference between this and the using the i7-6820 HQ and the same graphics card like I use in the Alienware. When it comes to gaming, I didn't notice much difference there. Perhaps on CPU-intensive tasks, you would. But for the general gamer, I think this is a good option to go for. Build quality, I quite like that too. It does have some plastic on it for sure. Underneath is plastic, but I think that helps insulate the heat from your legs. But the back of the lid here and the top of the keyboard, that's a brushed aluminum, and that feels fairly solid and nice. And the blackness offsets the colours. It makes a good contrast there. The colours of the keyboard when it lights up, so that is good. And I do like that keyboard. It's a Steel Series keyboard. It's solid. There's not much give. There's good distance between the keys. The distance for the key depress is quite good too. I like that. I like the individual buttons at the top, so you could press and alter the fan speed, for instance, or alter the colours of the keyboard. So that's all good. I like that. I also love the audio. The audio is great. It's got 2 3-watt speakers and a subwoofer. Yes, a subwoofer at this price range. That's fantastic. And I think that the extra depth of the chassis helps resonate that bass a little bit. Yeah? So I think, yeah, it could certainly fill a small room, even a medium-sized room, to watch a movie or listen to music. And I think that's definitely worth having. Certainly one of the best I've heard. The screen is quite good too, although it's not as bright as some competitors outside. But you're going to be inside mostly, and for that use case, it's fine. You can even reduce it down to 0 brightness and still see it fairly well. This leads to the battery life. The battery life for a G-Sync panel isn't bad at all. You know, you can get 3 hours, 40 minutes, perhaps even squeak out 4 hours if you put down to 0 brightness. You know, so, you know, it's not going to be an all-day laptop for sure, but, you know, it gets the job done when you're away from a power source. And I do like the G-Sync. The G-Sync worked flawlessly. No tearing, no drop frames or anything like that. It was, you know, it worked great. Ports-wise, I think we've got plenty here. We've got the SD card reader, which I think is great to have. We've got 4 USB ports, and I'd love having these USB ports, full-size USB ports, because we've got so many peripherals we plug in, and we hate having dongles around to have to find them and shove them in. So the HDMI 1.4, I think that's fine too, to be fair, because, you know, I don't think this is going to get 60 frames per second at 4K unless you really crank down the quality settings. So I think 30 frames per second at 4K would be more than ample there. You've got the mini display port for another output option, and you've got the USB Type-C port. So I think it's got it well covered. I wish this model had a DVD drive. For the thickness of the chassis, it probably should have, and in fact I think other models do. And the fact that this computer does come with a DVD with the utilities on probably speaks that it does. The other models do have it, so that would be nice. I mean, even the BIOS even suggested to boot from the CD drive. So, but I think for all in all, for an affordable, high-powered gaming system, I think this is pretty good. It's lightweight at 6.5 pounds, so you can take it away with you and play in a hotel room. The webcam is probably one thing I wasn't too enamored with. I mean, the camera itself wasn't too bad, but the microphone I didn't think was all that clear. And yeah, getting support from the MSI website, that's quite good. I got all the latest drivers and stuff. I had to use it once because I updated to the anniversary edition of Windows 10, and the speakers did emit a crackling sound, and inputting this beta driver certainly helped resolve that. One thing I'm not too enamored with is the upgradability. There's a scary, remove warranty label threatening thing on the back there. It's hidden. One of the screws is underneath the label. So remove that and they say that you're going to lose your warranty. I don't know how true that is really. I did call one of their reps once a few years ago and he said that's fine as long as you don't break anything, you're okay. To be fair, there's not much you can do in there. There are 2 empty RAM slots you can use to increase the RAM, but I think 16 gigabytes is ample certainly these days. But I think for the price, I recommend it, and it's a recommended buy. So thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Bye now.